In an era where the line between genres blur and every action game is packed full of RPG elements or vice versa, discover a game that takes this concept to the extreme by giving you a Persona-linked version of Dynasty Warriors, where you can spend 80 hours beating 1 billion enemies to death as your digital wife. Okay, this is definitely someone's fetish. P5 Strikers. Jump into the stylish world of Anime Tokyo and get ready for another adventure with the Phantom Thieves, as Persona continues its tradition of exploiting you following an actual love with its fictional characters to sell you weird spin-off franchises that clearly exist in defiance of God, but this time opts for a genre that used to be reserved for lunatics and Chinese history nerds, until they decided to reskin everything with franchises people actually cared about, creating a combination that goes together like peanut butter and methamphetamine. As the familiar characters, style, and metric ton of text from Persona make the endless dude butter of the Musou games feel less like an endless grindy nightmare and more like a slightly better battle system than actual Persona, in an experience that comes together about 3 times better than anyone could have expected it to, except for the part where they took out the reason people actually play Persona: reciprocal affection from imaginary teenage girls. Infiltrate your way into the cognitive world, where you and your gang of unrealistically charismatic teens gather once again for a mundane summer that turns into a road trip around Japan to clear the name of the Phantom Thieves, while uncovering the mystery of the newly formed jails and the over-the-top monarchs that control them, in what is essentially the exact same plot as Persona 5, except that you get to hang out with IRL Siri, who just happens to also be a teenage girl, while you button through reams of dialogue about how being greedy and cruel is bad actually, until you get to what you're really here for, pretending to take a vacation in Japan, as you take in sights of different cities around Tokyo with your friends, eat local specialties, collect souvenirs and recipes, and discover what it means to have a heart, in a story about you that will have you in your feelings more than you ever expected from a game about killing 1 billion guys. It's like the summer that I didn't get to have this year. I just want to see the sun again. Slash endlessly through the hordes of enemies in the personified Musou gameplay of Strikers, where the biggest combat innovation is actually making you pay attention, as you spend half your time dancing out of AoEs, in combination with interactive environmental attacks to thin out swaths of mobs, pausing the action to line up the biggest possible bufu, building up your showtime meter to unleash the real anime, and generally running around the map feeling like an unstoppable god, until you get to one of the severely overpowered bosses and get several asses handed to you, as you desperately spam its weaknesses while carbo-loading food to get your SP back, just to break its 6 or so shields to finally stagger it and do a sliver of damage, accurately recreating the feeling of fighting a mainline Persona boss for a full real-time hour, in combat with a difficulty curve like the GameStop stock price, where half of the challenge is figuring out what is even happening on the screen. But hey, can you really call it a Musou game if it isn't a total visual cluster? So jump into that camper and get ready to change some hearts again in a different kind of Persona experience that keeps the spirit of the series intact, while somehow succeeding in making the most playable by normal humans Musou game in history. It's good enough that it might even make you want to give Dynasty Warriors another shot, and I'm here to tell you to ignore that impulse. Starring Lupin the Teen, Garfield, Skullomania, Catafine Tales, Andy Warhol, Iron Maiden, Cavalierin, The Dork Web, Dadborn, and Skyfu. Weeaboo Warriors 5 Road Trip. Okay, seeing how we have Persona and Zelda games, I think it's the perfect time to pitch Harvest Moon Farmers. Double the crops, double the bloodshed.